Alright, today I'm answering the question of why you might not play an 8-string guitar all the time. Here's the guitar from my channel profile picture. I've talked about it, reviewed it, used it in songs and in videos, so why don't I use it in every video or on every song? They say with the 8-string you have your 6 strings down here and then just the 2 extra on top, so you have extended range but you still have your 6 strings. So why do I usually play 6 strings when it comes to my channel and my music? I'll be talking about why I don't use the 8-string guitar all the time, but also 8-string guitars in general, not just me and mine right here. And some of these points you can extend to 7 strings as well. Of course, this isn't a video about bashing 8-string guitars. I think they're great. But more, if you have an 8-string and say a 6-string, why would you still choose to play the 6-string sometimes? Before I jump into things, I just gotta say I'm not sponsored by Ibanez or Abasi Concepts or any of the brands shown in this video. Alright, so the first talking point is the extended range, and let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. I don't need to go down all the way to the low 8th string, the open 8th string, even the 7th string all the time for every song. I do play a bunch of down-tuned stuff, both in covers and my own music, but oftentimes I don't need to go down this low to get the sound I'm looking for. Many times drop C is enough, sometimes even standard. I do have my 7s a whole step down to A standard, and this is an E standard. I'll talk about music genres in a bit, but I typically don't do the super modern stuff. And so then if you don't need to use the extra strings, you don't necessarily need to play a guitar that has them. So that's one reason why I'd pick, say, a 6-string guitar. Continuing to talk about the extended range and the extra strings, if you're not using the extra strings, well, they're still there. Your muting technique is still going to have to be on point. Of course, with practice, your muting technique will be good enough that it won't really matter. Not denying that at all. But if you have a choice between 8 strings and 6 strings, and you're only going to be playing the 6 strings, it does help to reduce the amount of things that can go wrong. And of course, extra strings means the neck naturally is wider, and that changes the playing feel. So it's going to feel different to palm mute and pick with the extra strings right here. If you're trying to palm mute the 6th string, it's no longer the closest string to you, etc. And also you could see the neck is wider too. So that's both going to affect what you can do. See the thumb over the neck style, you just can't reach the 6th string anymore. But also the thumb behind the neck when you're playing like that. Say you have your thumb behind the 5th string. Well, on a 6-string guitar, then your thumb is going to be near here where the neck is curving towards the fretboard edge. And this is assuming like a C shape, flat C, something like that. A typical guitar neck profile. But then on the 8th string, if your thumb is behind the 5th string, here you could see it's more in the middle of the neck. So that's going to feel different. And maybe that'll matter to you. Maybe you're more used to playing 6 strings. You're used to feeling the neck profile a certain way. You know, you've put all those hours into practicing your scale runs, your licks, all that stuff, your riffs. This could be enough to throw you off. But maybe you play some styles, some genres of music that need lower notes. That brings me to my next talking point of genres and styles. So the genre of music you're playing, writing, performing can factor into your guitar choice, whether you're picking a 6-string or extended range guitar. Naturally, the modern metal stuff has all the down tuning involved. And so you could talk about pitch shifters here. Now there is something to be said about having a guitar with the range that you're trying to reach, the low tunings, the extra strings. You can actually hit those low notes. You won't have to worry about any kind of pitch shifter drifting or any latency things going wrong. Maybe your pitch shifter fails at a gig. You know what they say, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. But that being said, if you do have a backup, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, you could just play a 6-string and pitch it down, or a 7-string and pitch it down. And those would be some reasons why you might not necessarily go for an 8-string. And then of course, if you're not playing genres that need to go down that low, maybe you're playing blues in E flat, grabbing a 6-string Telecaster, Stratocaster, Les Paul, any kind of 6-string that can play blues, that'd be probably a choice that makes a lot of sense. Although now that I've said that, there's probably going to be a million people who play electric 8-string blues. But it doesn't have to be blues too. I'm more rooted in 2000s metalcore stuff, so As Blood Runs Black, Killswitch Engage, August Burns Red, that kind of stuff. I also like other things too, some classical music, some video game music. I have a bunch of covers on streaming services like Spotify, shameless plug. So those are reasons why I would pick a 6-string then too, because to play a lot of that music, like the metalcore, that's in drop C, drop D, don't necessarily need an 8-string for that. That being said though, I have used the 8-string in some of my music. For example, in January, I wrote an original song called Jupiter Workshop and I used an 8-string for that. And I've used the 8-string here and there too in various covers, like Tunnel Rhino, Bubble Crab. So the 8-string isn't completely useless. I'm not trying to say that at all. You don't even have to play metal on 8-strings too. I'm not saying that either. I made a 3-song release called Contexture Campaign, and that has just some background music. And I did it all on this guitar right here. No jugs involved. So one more thing that applies to me, and maybe it applies to you too, is I feel inspired by different guitars to write different things. Not saying I always write metal on this guitar, but just whatever music comes out of my fingers. It really depends on which guitar I'm playing. It could be I switch between different 6-string guitars. I'll come up with something completely different. Same applies to the 8-string too. And currently, I feel my most creative when I'm using 6 strings. And it's not because I don't know how to write for 8 strings. It's not that I can't find a use for this low string. Something about the limitation of 6 strings, it really gets me thinking. I can't just make it sound cool by hitting that low, in my case, E or maybe F sharp if you're in standard. I feel like I'm thinking about how to use the less strings and get more out of them. And when I'm writing with the 8-string, I think about separating the parts out. I want the rhythms to be really low and I want the highs to be really high. I really want to take advantage of that range that's offered to me by this. Do you feel the same way? Are you inspired by which guitar you're using in the songs you're writing? Do you feel like playing different things on different guitars? Be sure to comment down below. And to continue the discussion, go ahead and join the Discord. We have fun talking about guitar stuff there. But speaking about guitar stuff, let's talk about the physical size of 8-string guitars. So many 8-string guitars, they have longer scale lengths, and this is to help with the intonation of the lower strings. A longer scale length also lets you have thinner strings, so you don't have thick bridge cables as the low strings. So this Abasi Larada, it has a 25.5-inch scale length on the treble side, and I believe a 27.5-inch scale length on the bass side, on the low side here. And so why I would pick a 6-string over this guitar in this particular context is because I would want to play a more uniform scale length. If I'm only playing leads that day or for that recording session, personally, I'm more used to playing a uniform scale length. I know there are some guys out there who do find the multiscale more comfortable. And hey, you know, if that's your jam, power to you. I'm not saying it's bad. These are all just tools to make music. And if you have a tool that gets the job done for you, that's great. Power to you. Personally, it doesn't bend my brain as much if all the frets are basically looking the same. It's a uniform scale length. I do get a bit confused sometimes at the extremes. And of course, naturally, a longer scale length does mean it's a longer instrument. Now this Larada here, it's kind of designed in a clever way, so it's just as long as a 6-string Strat or Super Strat, as you could see here. But to do that, they had to get clever and see the bridge here is more towards the edge of the body. And also the edge of the body is this interesting shape, which is actually pretty ergonomic. But it does mean, since the bridge is slanting away, sloping away, that you have to adjust your palm muting technique. And that can be a lot to get used to. And then these aren't 8 strings, but you can see moving the bridge back applies. You can compare the 7-string model of the Solar A1.7 to the 6-string model of the Solar A1.6. You can kind of see the 7-string, it has the bridge closer to the edge of the body. So you'd still have to adjust your picking technique where your palm muting hand goes, because the bridge is closer to the edge of the body. That applies to 8 strings too. So I feel the most comfortable when the bridge is about in this position here. And I have to kind of think about it when the bridge is further back. So that's personal preference. That's why I'd pick a 6-string. Of course, I'm not saying the guitar is unplayable like this. Far from it. It's a minor inconvenience, but these minor inconveniences add up over time. When you're practicing, when you're playing, when you're performing many hours, it adds up. And of course, with the longer scale length, the neck is longer. If it's not a clever design, if it's just guitar body and then neck sticking out there, that longer scale length means the neck sticks out longer, almost like a bass, but not quite. So you do have to ask yourself, do you want to be playing a guitar that's almost as big as a bass? And if you do, again, that's great. Personally, I would rather play a somewhat smaller size guitar, the Super Strat kind of 25.5-inch scale length, and then the classic body. That's just the sweet spot for me. That's why I'd pick a 6-string guitar when it comes to scale length, neck size, things like that. So some overall thoughts. These ideas are just from my experiences so far. It's entirely possible to go your whole life making amazing music using nothing but an 8-string. You can find people who like extended range guitars, whether locally, maybe. I guess it depends where you are, but on the internet, definitely. You can start your own band. You can even make music yourself and do it online. Like me, I'm doing the online music thing. It doesn't have to be online too. You could be a one-man show. I also have to say that playing an 8-string is still fun, even if you're not using the low strings. Sometimes I do pick up this guitar just to practice a few leads or arpeggios or whatever down here. Even play a few chords down here. Typical bar chord stuff. One thing I do want to talk about though is the pickups, and I wonder if my opinion would be affected in any way if my 8 strings had passive pickups. These Fishmans do sound good. These aren't the moderns. These are the Tosin signatures, but they are still actives. They do have a lot of compression and they are really hot. They do pick up a lot of mistakes if you make a lot of mistakes. Of course, I have 6 and 7 string guitars with active pickups too, so I'm not against active pickups by any means. I think they sound pretty cool. When I was younger, my favorite pickup set was the EMG 8160. I still like it too. And then I was playing live. I had my Ibanez S470. I put the DiMarzio deactivators in them. I liked how those sounded. But back to these do sound pretty good. They sound good in many situations, but not in every situation, I notice. These days, I don't really change out the pickups in my guitars anymore. I used to a lot back in the day. There are a lot of decent stock pickups out these days. And I'm finding I'm leaning towards the passive sound more and more. I also wonder if I like 6-string guitar passive sound pickup the most. 25.5-inch scale length, only 6 strings, that many magnets. My favorite 7-string, which I just showed, the Solar A 1.7, that has passives in it, but I also have a Solar T 1.7, and that has the active Fishman Moderns, and I've used that guitar to, I don't know, enjoyable effect. I've liked how the songs I've used that on have turned out. What do you think? Do you like active pickups in your extended range guitars? Have you had good luck with passive pickups? Either way, there you have it. What do you think? Do you use 8 strings for everything you do? Or do you switch to 6 or 7 strings if you have the additional guitars? Be sure to comment down below, and this is YouTube, so I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. Join the Discord, check out the Patreon. If you're looking for something cool to listen to, check me out on Spotify and all major streaming services. I do some originals and a bunch of video game music. And as always, peace.